728 on AM 970 The Answer. AM 970 The Answer around the world. We know you're listening. Australia, Israel, and down in the United States of Texas, down there, South Carolina. But we are live, we are local, right in the greatest city in the world, in New York, New York. Now, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is a first-generation Muslim American, probably in demand today more than most days. So I would like to first start my chat with Dr. Jasser and say thank you, Zuhdi, for coming out to the show, because I know you're getting pulled every which way today. We appreciate you jumping on the Piscopo Show in the morning, sir.
Oh, anytime, Joe. You're the best. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Well, Zuhdi, you could walk us through this, and I know our hearts go out. Let me just start with that terrible mosque killing in Quebec City. Do we know anything more than what we're hearing, Zuhdi Jasser?
No, not yet. We're still trying to see if it's obviously an act of terrorism, and our hearts and prayers go to the family and this heinous attack, but we still don't know who did it and what's behind it. But hopefully they get them quickly and bring them to swift justice.
Yeah. Now, Zuhdi Jasser wrote this incredible book, this go-to book called A Battle for the Soul of Islam. And you want to Google Dr. Zuhdi Jasser and indeed that publication. But Dr. Jasser, how do you feel about the president's executive order on immigration?
Yeah, so, I think the most important thing, Joe, is that we understand that this is not a Muslim ban. It's a pause. It's an assessment that basically we need to better vet at least those 7 countries. And I would have added Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Pakistan to that mix, since those are really the primary cauldrons of radical Islam. But again, it's not a ban. This president, our new president, Trump, is saying, you know what, the last 8 years, the way it's been done is simply open borders, and vetting simply by looking at whether they belong to terror organizations is not the way to do it. And Mr. Trump's used the phrase extreme vetting. I like to call it really rational vetting, which is to vet against ideologies, be it jihadism, political Islamist movement membership, look at their social media profiles, etc. So the hysteria about what's actually being done is just absurd. Now, at the end of the day, the way what happened after the executive order got put out and what was happening at the airports for some folks who have the right to be here, folks on visas that have already been vetted, etc., that sort of didn't make sense. And I think some of the messaging could have been done better in that, yes, first, we protect our country, and secondly, we don't change what we stand for, which is the haven for those who want freedom and liberty. But I can tell you, the folks that want theocracy should not be allowed in. And nobody's been talking about the fact that our only means for vetting has been whether they belong to terror groups, and they wanted to be reassured that the Obama administration vetted them well for 18 months, et cetera. No, the bottom line is that they've not been vetting for ideologies.
Right. This is not a Muslim ban, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. This is not a religious ban, sir.
Exactly. I mean, the comments that the executive order favors Christians, the word Muslim's not in the executive order, the word Christians isn't. It talks about those who are being persecuted for their religion. And that is very American. We want people to come here who are seeking freedom from political, from religious persecution, who are minorities. And yes, that would include Christian, Yazidi minorities. It would also include Muslim minorities, like myself and our family, that are minority, that are Sunnis in the majority, but yet minority opinions, who are persecuted by governments like the Saudis or Syrians, et cetera. So bottom line is that we are a country that protects those persecuted in the name of their religion. But no, there's no favoritism to one religion over the other. It's simply those who are persecuted.
And Dr. Jasser, don't some of these Arab countries in the region have an obligation to step up and take in some of these refugees?
That is the amazing part of this whole narrative, is you hear the folks from Senator Schumer, who is just and living in an alternative universe, that somehow the world is going to collapse because America is pausing our immigration, and yet Saudi Arabia took in 0. Iran's taking in none, even while they fuel the genocide in Syria. And all these countries are not doing anything for their fellow Muslims in the majority countries there, and yet the world didn't collapse when these autocracies didn't take anything, but we decide to put a pause and hold for 120 days, and somehow that's the end of the world. Now, I would tell you, I'm not sure I agree with the fact that they put Syria indefinitely, and those other 7 countries, Yemen, Libya, Iraq, were put as just 120. So I would like to see that change to where Syria is treated, because, Syria is the worst-case scenario right now.
Yeah.
It's where most of the refugees are coming from. And if you look at who's attacked us, actually, none have been from Syria so far. Now, they've been foreign jihadists that went to Syria and came back, so certainly the refugee issue is a major problem. But at the end of the day, I hope, we treat all those countries the same, which is to pause it for 3 to 6 months and then resume. But, yeah, those other Arab countries, it's just the hypocrisy is bizarre, not only in their countries, but the way the media and the left is reviewing what those countries are doing compared to what we did.
Yeah, so there's all the unrest in the Middle East, Dr. Jasser. And then Donald Trump came up with this idea of green zones in the Middle East during his campaign to protect these refugees. And now he's been chatting with some, I believe, with some world leaders over there. And there's a tent city in Saudi Arabia. I can't figure out why, for example, your point is well taken, by the way. Senator Schumer just doesn't go, look, there's a place in the Middle East. They don't even have to travel thousands of miles. They don't have to get on boats and end up in Greece on an island. They could go to these green zones. Is that out of the question, sir?
No, not at all. I mean, and this is the issue. There's been some studies that have shown 20 to 30% of those seeking refuge have Islamist jihadist sympathies. So if you do the math,
wow,
those 20% should stay in countries that they believe in their systems of government, be it Egypt, Saudi Arabia, et cetera, that has the room to do it. So President Trump is right. The safe zones need to happen. I don't know how they're going to do that with a friendly attitude towards the Russians. The Russians are flying operations where they're bombing moderate neighborhoods where there's no ISIS or anything. So it's quite complicated, but I do think that is, it's like when you're treating metastases of cancer. You treat where the primary cancer is, and that's in Syria. You create safe zones there where they don't have to flee. And the safe zones would have to include no-fly zones, because the Assad regime, Hezbollah, Iran, Russia are bombing with jets most of the moderate areas where there is no rebels. So that would need to be part of the reassurance that those areas are free from any types of overflying bombing operations.
Dr. Zuhdi Jasser with Joe Piscopo on AM 970, The Answer, 736. Dr. Jasser is a first-generation Muslim American, founder of American Islamic Forum for Democracy, former United States Navy lieutenant commander, author of A Battle for the Soul of Islam. And Dr. Jasser, before we let you go, and we appreciate your time, and by the way, thank you for your service to the United States of America, sir, in the Navy. We appreciate that and so respect that. What should the reaction from the American Muslim community be?
Well, the American Muslim community, I think, obviously, I have family in Aleppo, and we should react to the things that are real, that are true. The executive order, what it says, what it doesn't. We shouldn't fall into the trap of identity politics and all of this attempt to try to collectivize us. And I think the best way for Americans to feel comfortable and feel that those coming, there's nothing more important. If America feels that those coming in are 99% folks that don't want to hurt us, that believe in our system, then that'll allow us to feel more comfortable to increase the number coming in, rather than American Muslims being perceived as not caring about the ideologies of those who come in. So the best way to melt away the bigotry that may exist is for Americans to see us leading the fight for reform and against the theocratic ideas that many of the Islamists have. And I think that would be the best thing to do as Americans and as Muslims, rather than soak up the bandwidth and our resources in victimization, identity politics. Use it to fight the ideas, the jihadist ideas, and reform. Our Muslim reform movement does that, and I would ask Muslim groups to join our Muslim reform movement in countering those ideas that, President Trump said, we have to put a pause so we can figure out what's going on. Well, our Muslim groups know what's going on that are reformists, and we just need an opportunity to help treat that disease.
Brilliant as always, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. And I know we will be watching media all across television and radio and online today, and you will be at the forefront of that. So we appreciate you starting your morning with us, Dr. Jasser. Thank you so much, with much respect.
Anytime. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Take care.
Dr. Zuhdi Jasser right there, indeed. 738, Joe